Prabhu?
Prabhu, we can hear you.
Sorry?
We can hear you, Prabhu.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So welcome to the daily recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam. We are studying every morning, so which is very nice. This is for my own purification. So thank you all for joining in. So today we are studying from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, the Summum Bonum Chapter 10, the Deliverance of the Yamala-arjuna Trees. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudriyet Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. So can we have the verse, please? Just make it a bit bigger. Okay, thank you, Prabhu. So Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 10, text number 19. Tad aham matayor madhya varunyashi madandayaho tamo madam harishyami strainayor ajitatpanaho. Tad aham matayor madhya varunyashi madandayaho tamo madam harishyami strainayor ajitatpanaho. Tadaham matayor madhya varunya shri madandayaho tamo madam harishyami strainayor ajitatmanaho. Synonyms. Tat, therefore, aham, I, matayo, of these two drunken persons, madhya, by drinking liquor, varunya, named Varuni, Shri Andayo, who are blinded by celestial opulence, tamaha madam, this false prestige, due to the mode of ignorance, harishyami, I shall take away, strainayo, because they have become so attached to women, ajita atmanaho, being unable to control the senses. Translation, interpreted by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Therefore, since these two persons, drunk with the liquor named Varuni or Badvi, and unable to control their senses, have been blinded by the pride of celestial opulence, and have become attached to women, I shall relieve them of their false prestige. Purport. When a sadhu chastises or punishes someone, he does not do so for revenge. Maharaj Parikshit had inquired why Narad Muni was subject to such a spirit of revenge, or tamaha. But this was not tamaha, for Narad Muni, in full knowledge of what was for the good of the two brothers, wisely thought of how to cure them. Vaishnavas are good physicians. They know how to protect a person from material disease. Thus, they are never in tamoguna. Sa gunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Bhagavad Gita 14:26. Vaishnavas are always situated on the transcendental platform or the Brahman platform. They cannot be subject to mistakes or the influence of the modes of material nature. Whatever they do, after full consideration, is meant just to lead everyone back home, back to Godhead. So translation one more time. Therefore, since these two persons, drunk with the liquor named Varuni or Madhvi, and unable to control their senses, have been blinded by the pride of celestial opulence, and have become attached to women, I shall relieve them of their false prestige. So, Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Mano vistam sthapitam yena bhutale swayam rupa kada mahyam dadati swapadantikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Krishna Goswami Niti Namine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshe Tarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Cha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So once again, those who have just joined, welcome to the daily recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam. We're reading from Canto 10, Chapter 10, text number 19. Before we proceed, I just wanted to request all the devotees here that there's very nice devotee in our community, His Grace Dauji Prabhu, who's undergoing some surgery this morning, I believe. So if you can please, all of you, I request with folded hands, keep him in your prayers. And whatever spiritual activity we do today, we can offer that to Dauji Prabhu for his surgery so that he comes out successful and his recovery is quick. So thank you very much, Prabhu Mataji. Hare Krishna. Okay, coming back to the verse. So yesterday we had a lot about the qualities of sadhu. Adari Mataji covered quite in depth. Today we're going to look at this verse maybe slightly from a different angle. So before that, I just wanted to put the context and the meaning of the verse and the purport here. It mentions about the Varuni drink here, or so Varuni drink, there are two types, right? There's one, the non-alcoholic, and the other one is the alcoholic version. So non-alcoholic, as we know, it's generally made on Balram Purnima. It's made of yogurt, milk, honey, etc. Depends on the concentration, and also the other one is the alcoholic drink. It's made by fermenting rice, date, palms, sap, plants, mash, different things, but the process is fermentation. So even if you take the non-alcoholic one, if you have tried it on Balram Purnima, like few extra cups, you can still get a bit high. Yeah, if you haven't tried it, you can try it next year, Balram Purnima. So you can just get a taste, real taste. I think so far the best Varuni drink which I have drunk is made by Alasambar Prabhu in Auckland. He has got a set recipe which is really pakka. Anyway, so Varuni, or here mentioned, is Madhvi as well. I don't know if Madhvi Mataji is on class. It's sweet as honey. So it's also mentioned, they are the consort of Varuna. Varuna, there is the water god, if you like. So Varuni or Madhvi, she's in charge of intoxication. That's why it's called Varuni drink as well, if you like. So here in this verse, this verse occurs in the story of Nal Kuber and Manigriva. We have been hearing for some time now, the two sons of Kuber who were cursed by Narad Muni to become trees for 100 celestial years in the backyard of Nand Maharaj. They were also known as like the twin Arjuna trees. So their downfall was due to intoxication, pride, and indulgence in sensual pleasures. So pride can also bring us down. So Narad Muni, being such an exalted devotee, he did not curse them out of anger, but out of compassion. So actually it was like a blessing to these two men, ensuring that they would eventually be liberated by the touch of Krishna. when he comes as Damodar. And the removal of false prestige here is not punishment, but purification. Stripping away arrogance so they could regain spiritual clarity. So this is in brief like the context of the verse. So here we can see this subject of discrimination comes, right? So sometimes in our lives we also have to discriminate what is right and what is wrong. See, the action of the mind is to accept things and to reject things. But the action of the intelligence is to discriminate what is right and what is wrong. So here Narad Muni, not only what is right or what is wrong, but what is also beneficial or harmful to me, or what is beneficial or harmful to others in the decisions we make in our daily lives. So that's discrimination, where we use our intelligence. It's called Vivek Buddhi as well, like we act according to our intelligence. So Narad Muni's thoughtful discrimination, how to act. This is sadhu's job, right? This is what a sadhu does. He put us back on track. And by the help of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, it also helps us with discrimination. So here we are going to today look at the 4 ways, or 4 M's, if you like. So by acting as a mirror, moral, map, and muscle, right? So the 4 M's. Are there any kids in here? If there are any kids, they probably like the M and M's, right? The 2 M's. Today we're going to talk about 4 M's. So mirror, moral, map, and muscle. Before we go there, I just wanted to recap quickly. So in this context, there were 3 groups of people, right? Nalakuvera and Manigriva, they were drunk and had desire to enjoy their pride. There were Apsaras there, the women. When they saw Narad Muni, they showed respect for the saintly person and they covered themselves. And then third was the Narad Muni, who showed proper discrimination. Like if we go off track, then the sadhus, help us in our spiritual lives. So we may understand that we are not the body, but the spirit soul. But how do we understand that we are not the mind? How do we understand that we are not the mind? Well, when we try to do something substantial in our lives, for example, we really want to sit down and chant nicely, but our mind wanders here and there. It doesn't let us do it. So we should understand that there is some imbalance and we should rectify that and seek how to fix it. Right? So that is self-awareness. When we are aware of things which are happening to us which might not be right or which could be right. So here the process of discrimination through the eyes of the scriptures, right? Or we can say Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So number 1, let's dive into it, right? So what were the 4 things? Mirror, moral, map, and muscle. Look at the mirror, for example. So the scripture acts as a mirror to show us where we are, how we are. This is self-awareness. Sometimes, ladies look at the mirror, some men also. We look at the mirror for ourselves from different angles to see how we look, right? Maybe when we are looking at the mirror, it is kind of awareness of ourselves, our own bodies. Might not be self-awareness. But self-awareness actually shows us which mode we are acting under. Because our actions are always under one of the 3 modes, ignorance, passion, or goodness. But when we look deeply inside self-awareness, then we can say, hey, I'm in different modes, so I have to pull myself up. For example, if we get angry on someone, it's our own internal reflection seen in the other person. It's a pretty heavy statement, right? By the Acharyas. If we get angry on someone, I say, hey, it's because of you or because of your fault I'm getting angry. No, it's whatever is inside us is shown as the reflection in the other person. So here, this degrees of lust is also mentioned. I'll just quickly cover that. I think it's Bhagavad Gita 3.38, the different degrees of lust are mentioned. For example, fire covered by smoke, mirror covered by dust, and embryo covered by the womb. So when we say fire covered by smoke, this is the least severe degree of lust, like the beginning stages of spiritual awakening, if you like. So the fire, which is the spiritual consciousness, is still visible. It's still burning, but its clarity is obscured by the smoke of desire. But slowly, when the smoke goes away, you can see the fire. The second degree of lust is mirror covered by dust. So this is like a moderate degree. The mirror is like the mind. It's still recognizable as a mirror, but its function of clearly reflecting is hindered by the dust or our desires. So we can remember the spiritual goals, but they are clouded again. So you have to cleanse the mirror to be able to see ourselves. The third degree, which is the most gross type or severe type of lust, is embryo covered by the womb. So it's representing a state of near complete covering. So the embryo it represents like the soul's knowledge and consciousness is so deeply enclosed, it is helpless and cannot move much. So this is a state of being completely bewildered and unaware of one's spiritual nature. So fire covered by smoke, then the next one is mirror covered by dust, then the next one is embryo covered by the womb. You can check the verse out, 338. So there are different stages of lust mentioned there, and Prabhupada explains very nicely in the purport as well. So the mirror, this is the first one, the process of discrimination. Scripture acts as a mirror to show us where we are and how we are. Right? The next one is, number 2, is the moral. So moral basically is how we should be living, the ideals of life, free from lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, illusion, whatever you want to call it. And we should have some spiritual inclination. So proper morals can help us improve ourselves. Sometimes we may have role models. For example, there may be a movie star or a sports person or a business tycoon, whoever they may be. So they could be our role models, but they could also be acting on impulses without discrimination, right or wrong. So is it good to follow them? Maybe yes, maybe no. That's where you have to use your discrimination. Another concept these days is boldness, right? So if you say, for example, if you see a female exposing her body too much, that could be a sign of boldness. But on the other hand, very subtly, we are losing the moral values. So we have to uphold the moral values to progress in life. Now, for devotees, it's called the Vaishnava etiquette as well. Vaishnava's etiquette is the ornament of it's a jewel of a devotee. If we don't have this jewel, if we don't have this Vaishnava etiquette, scriptures mention, it's just like a widow without abhushan, without the jewels or without the ornaments. So that was the second bit, the moral, which is the ideals of life, how we should be living it. The third one is the map. Okay, when do we use the map, the GPS? When we have to go from point A to point B, right? So the map shows us how to go from mirror to moral, right? So the mirror shows us who we are, where we are at, and the moral is the ideals of life, where we want to be. So the map shows us, hey, you go from mirror to moral, like that. And that's the do's and the don'ts of life, right? So there are so many do's and don'ts, in life. I just quickly like to read some of this. So this is from Nectar's instruction. So the don'ts mentioned in Nectar instruction text 2 says one's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities. eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required, over-endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of scriptures and working independently or whimsically, associating with worldly-minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness, and being greedy for mundane achievements. Now, a few times, a few devotees have asked me, said, how do we know that we are not over-endeavoring? And the simple answer which I always give is, which I had, that if our endeavors affect our personal sadhana, that means we are over-endeavoring. If our whatever we endeavor for, if we are able to do our sadhana properly, like chanting and following the regulative principles and doing our daily puja at home, whatever you're doing at home, your sadhana, the morning sadhana and evening sadhana, if it's not affected, that's fine. But if it starts to encroach on your sadhana, that's over-endeavoring. So you have to take a step back and rethink or readjust the life. Now, the next one, 6 principles favorable to the execution of pure devotional service. Text 3, being enthusiastic, endeavoring with confidence, being patient, acting according to regulative principles such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, hearing, chanting, remembering Krishna, abandoning the association of non-devotees and following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. These 6 principles undoubtedly assure the complete success of pure devotional service. So we be enthusiastic in our devotional service, but we be patient for the results. Right? So our devotional service should be enthusiastically done, but the results will come. So we have to wait patiently. And text 4 says how these things can be exchanged between devotees as well. So offering gifts in charity, you offer gifts to devotees and you accept the gifts if someone gives it back to you. Revealing one's mind in confidence, inquiring confidentially, accepting prasadam and offering prasadam. Invite devotees for prasadam and you accept prasadam. So these are the 6 symptoms of love shared by one devotee and another. So these are the maps, the imperative verses, the action slokas that tell us how to use the map, right? How to use the map, what to do with the map. So you can go from Mira to Moro. So sense gratification on earth here is restricted by scriptures, but in heavenly planets, it is not as restricted, right? So there's more freedom for sense gratification there, but the karma still prevails. Like Shunya Punya, they have to come down to the material world once the piety finishes. So one time when Arjun, just a quick little story. One time when Arjun was in the heavenly planets, he was approached by Urvasi, but Arjun refused, saying that she was like his mother. She was connected to his ancestors, like Pururava and coming down. So Urvasi said that in heavenly planets, all these norms don't apply. But Arjuna said, I am from earthly planet, so the earthly rules apply to me. So it's going conversation back and forth. So he said, I can't associate with you. But these days, can you imagine if a beautiful woman approaches someone, people just jump on the opportunity, right? Without even thinking. But Arjun was so composed. We can learn from him how to be composed in our lives as well. So Urvasi curses Arjun that you are acting like an important. You become like one, like unit. So the question arises here, did Arjun's sense control backfire on him? No, because Indra told Arjuna that this curse will actually be beneficial to you in Agyatwas. When the Pandavas were to live incognito for the final year, this case, because this is where I think Arjuna had to, the final year of Agyatwas, that he had to disguise himself. So he became an eunuch, so named Brihanala. And he was teaching music and dance to King Virat's daughter, Princess Uttara. So Indra said, this will come handy then. Don't worry, Arjun. Everything is by the arrangement of this Supreme Personality of Godhead. So sometimes this sort of judgment or discrimination might appear incorrect initially, but it's beneficial in the long run. We should always remember that. So sometimes we try to use our willpower for self-transformation. Example, if somebody is smoking, they'll say, okay, I'm going to stop smoking. But after a few weeks, they start smoking again. Why? They say, well, if you ask them why you started smoking again, they say, oh, I changed my mind. I say, no, you didn't change your mind. Actually, your mind changed you, right? So the willpower alone is not enough. Why? Because these anarthas are like germs, little germs that infect the mind. And if one has a disease, it cannot just be cured by willpower. Say, for example, if someone has diarrhea, right? We can't just sit there and with our willpower and say, I'm just going to control myself. No, right? But you can try it. It might not work. So the willpower is not, it's helpful, but alone it's not going to help to the end. So we have to put some spiritual practice, some sense into ourselves, right? So one of these things is the remembrance of Krishna. So remembrance of Krishna acts like antiseptic that removes the germ-like material desires, right? Mitira Krishna Das. So that brings us to the fourth one, right? So we have heard about the mirror, the moral, the map, and then the muscle. So the muscle is the scriptures convey Krishna's desire to us, right? The scriptures convey Krishna's desire to us. And what's Krishna's desire? To love Krishna and go back to him. So please listen to this. I had this. This is a very important point for all of us. So when we are reading the purport of Srila Prabhupada's books, which Srila Prabhupada said they are his devotional ecstasies, it is conveying the desire of Srila Prabhupada to us. Just like Krishna's desire is coming to us, how? Through the purports of Srila Prabhupada's books. So, for example, if Srila Prabhupada says, give up sense gratification, it conveys to us the desire of Srila Prabhupada for us to give up sense gratification. So the scriptures convey to us the message or the desire of Krishna through Srila Prabhupada. And we try our best to follow that in the mood of service. So this builds our muscle memory over and over and over a period of time, right? And attentive chanting also helps us to build muscle memory as well. So in the case of Nalakuber and Manigriva, they were not in a position to, get the four scriptural discriminations, right? The mirror, moral, map, and muscle power, because they were intoxicated. Narad Muni couldn't tell them. So Narad Muni just blessed them with a curse and put them in a place where they would be deprived materially. Like trees can't really enjoy much, right? So Narad Muni put them in such a yoni, such a body of tree there, where they were deprived materially, but they were receptive spiritually. They were very receptive spiritually. So in the courtyard of Nand Maharaj, they got the daily darshan of the Vrajvasis. They got the dust from their feet, water from the holy dham through their roots, like that. So they became purified over this 100-year period. And eventually when Krishna delivered them, they offered very wonderful prayers, which we will see down the track. One of them was, I think, 10:38, where it says, Vani Gunanu Katha, Chavanau Kathaya. There are different verses. So basically they're saying, henceforward, my dear Lord, may all our words describe your pastimes. May our eyes engage in oral reception of your glories. May our hands, legs, and other senses engage in actions pleasing to you. And may our minds always think of your lotus feet. by our heads of our obeisances to everything within this world, because all things are also your different forms. And may our eyes see the forms of Vaishnavas who are non-different from you. So even though they were intoxicated, Narad Muni changed their drishti. How to be spiritual and free from material enjoyment and always be engaged in Krishna's service. So I'm just going to very quickly, 1 minute, I'll summarize what we discussed today. So the difference between animals and humans is to do activities that will help us discriminate. Right? Animals can't discriminate, but the humans have this ability to do that, right from wrong. Right? And this gives us the edge to situate ourselves in our original nature. What is our original nature? Nitya Krishna Das. In one time, Srila Prabhupada was on a morning walk, and he was hitting this form of this ice. As he was walking in the different puddles, he was hitting the ice with the stick. And Srila Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he asked Prabhupada, he said, Prabhupada, why are you hitting the ice with the stick? And Srila Prabhupada said, because this is not the natural form of water. This is not the natural form of water. So similarly, he said, our natural position is Nitya Krishna Das. We should always remember this. We should always act in our natural forms. So the 4 ways or aims to discriminate, we touched on that: the mirror, moral, map, and muscle. So mirror basically shows where we are, how we are. The moral is the ideals of life, where we should be. And how to go from mirror to moral is through the map, right? The do's and the don'ts, like we read in Nectar of Instruction verses. And finally, through the muscle is we see through the scriptures what the desire of Krishna and Srila Prabhupada is for us. So generally, we evaluate everything and everyone through our mind, right? Whatever mind says, hey, this person is like that, or this thing is like that. But we need one devotee through whom we evaluate our mind. Not that we evaluate everything through our mind, but we should have one devotee through whom we evaluate our mind. We get pride sometimes, even in doing devotional service, but there should be someone who should check, hey, Prabhu, hey, Mataji, you're doing such nice service, but just don't get, too pride. This will keep us in place all the time. And it will help us to catch the mind instead of the mind catching us. So this verse highlights a timeless truth: pride born of wealth, intoxication, and sensuality blinds one from higher reality. Right? We have to be very careful, walking on razor's edge. But when such pride is removed, sometimes through hardship, say, for example, Narad Muni's blessing, to these 2 gentlemen, Nalkuver and Manigriva. So the sadhu's job is to cut, right? Sadhu doesn't blow on the boil. Sadhu will operate and take the boil out. It might be painful in the beginning, but in the long run, it's beneficial. So it becomes an opportunity for spiritual awakening. Even those who fall are not beyond hope. And how a divine encounter can lead to liberation, provided we are humble enough to accept it. So Krishna guides us through the devotee. Scriptures, super soul within us, like we can cheat everyone else, but we can't cheat Krishna sitting within us as the super soul. And we should make decisions in life with the help of these things, Guru, Sadhu, and Sas, in the mode of goodness. Srila Prabhupada quotes this verse in the purport, 1426. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances at once, transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman or goodness. Sorry, dear devotee, sorry, I got a few minutes over time. I just wanted to cover these few points. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Please mute and say.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much for a wonderful class. I was just thinking, last point where you said when someone has pride, we should tell them. Sorry, that's my pressure cooker. We should tell them, but I don't think we have that in us or around. At least no one's ever told me that, Sneha, you have pride, you should be mindful of what you're doing. But I definitely know there have been moments where I've been extremely proud of myself, but there's no one been around to tell me through that. So obviously I've gone through a phase of, introspection and then working on it, and it keeps coming back. So those relationships, I was just thinking, it's more a comment than a question. I was just thinking, it's so hard to have those relationships where without polishing your language, you can tell someone nicely, those subtle things that is going to help you in your real spiritual progress. Those relationships are, I feel, hard to find, Prabhu. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji, for bringing that up. Yeah, it's not easy, but there should be, as Sakira Prabhu said once, that there should be one person in our lives, like in front of whom we are able to dance naked. That's a metaphor. So we should have someone in our lives where we trust each other so much that we are free to discuss anything and everything. I have a friend as well. I can discuss anything and everything with him. And the way we deliver it, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Satyam Priyam Hitam. It should be truthful, Priya, and then Hitam. Hitam is the important bit, that it should not only truthful and pleasing, but it should be beneficial to the person as well, provided the person is able to accept it in humility. We don't want to fuel the pride too much. Hey, why is this devotee telling me this?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
I'll give you one quick example. Like I was in the early days, not early, like few years into the movement, I was going to lead Tulsi prayer. So I said, Vindaya Tulsi Devyaya Priya Kesvasha. And then one devotee came and said, after that, he said, Prabhu, can I please tell you something? I said, yeah. I'm not in a position to correct you, but as a friend, I'm just sharing this with you, that the verse is not Vindaya Tulsi Devaya, it's Vindaya Tulsi Divyaya. So there was a little thing there, and I appreciated it so much. And I said, thank you very much. So the way we also say things to the devotees also matters. So we just have to be careful in the dealings. It's not that only the persons in the management have the right to correct. They have the right to correct. But if you are a good friend, you can say things like this, in a nice way, and they won't mind. Well, we hope they don't mind. Anyone else?
Thank you, Prabhu.
But one more thing I'll say, that this friendship you're talking about, Mataji, it takes some time to develop over a period of time. It's not an overnight thing. So, yeah.
Yes, Prabhu. Thanks.
Okay, if nothing else, thank you very much for your kind attention. May you all have a blessed Krishna conscious day, and please continue your prayers for this grace Tauji, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna,
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Thank
Prabhuji.
you.
Thank you. That was a beautiful class.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Bol.